Games from the Cellar, the board gaming podcast. We were playing Shadows Over Camelot, which is a classic that John and Chris have lots of fond memories over.
Because we're old enough to have played it.
Yeah.
20 years ago.
I might have played it once. I can't remember.
Do you know when your last play was?
I remember the
I
traitor
could look
always
it up, but
wins.
I don't know off the top of my head. But I've played this with my kids, so my kids really enjoy this one. So it's not just you guys that I've played it with.
I remember this is a difficult game to win even without a traitor.
Yes, it is. And now with Ed here, it's going to be even worse.
Yeah, that's true. Because we've got the traitor and then we've got Ed.
Yeah.
And I could be those could be the same.
If we're
That
lucky,
would
it
be
could
good.
be the same.
I'd be pleased if they were the same.
So
to
it's
be
a
honest.
cooperative game with the chance of a traitor, but there's 8 cards and there's 6 of us playing. So there's a chance that there's a traitor. You're saying there's a chance.
Not a very good chance that there isn't a traitor.
So this is pretty standard cooperative mold where you've got the bad news deck, all right? And generally I'll refer to it as the black deck, which comes from this game, because there's a white deck of cards, which are the things you use to get things done, and there's the black deck, which brings you the bad news. And on each turn, you've got a couple of choices of bad news you can bring, one of which is you can put siege engines in front of Camelot, but there's only so many of those you can do. Or you can give up a life point. You only got so many of those before that starts being a problem. So what ends up happening is once you've burned some of those up, you end up going to that black deck, and you keep drawing the cards over. Some of which aren't so bad, but there's stuff on there that is really bad news, and you flip it over and you go, oh, crap, everybody pull out your Merlin cards. We need to get out of this or we're dead right now. So that's the whole principle, and most cooperative games kind of follow this news where there's a deck of cards that you pull, you flip a card, and whatever it says to do is how the game brings it back at you. And so Shadows Over Camelot was kind of I think the earliest forerunner on this. I don't know if there was a traitor game before this or not, but it's like it's the grandfather of this sort of stuff. So one of us could secretly be a traitor. You see it in Battlestar Galactica. You see it in some other modern cooperative games. This was Days of Wonder. I think it was about 2005. And Serge Laget and Bruno Cathala. It's the other Bruno. I always get the two mixed up. So
Franco trash.
Absolutely. This is Franco trash, the best kind of gaming there is. But it's I think it's hard to find. I don't think they've reprinted this. It could go for a $200 Kickstarter if somebody really wanted to.
eBay has it listed now for around $125.
Oh, that's not bad, considering it was, because back in 2005, I think it was 40. So, throw a little inflation on it, it'd probably be 60 or 70 now. So it's, considering it's a hard to find game, that's not so bad. So we're all knights. Your actions are incredibly simple, like move to a new place or play one card. And on that exact same turn, you have some bad news thing, which, like I said, could be minor or it could be really bone crushing. So the key is to hold on to a couple of Merlin cards in your back pocket, because when that really, really bad card comes out, you can cancel it by throwing 3 Merlin cards, and that's across everybody. So if one person can put 2 and another person across the table can give 1, then you can get out of trouble that way. You can draw a white card as one of your actions, because you need to build up white cards in order to do your stuff. When you're in Camelot, you get to draw 2 white cards, and we get to trade and figure out what we want to do from there. And I'm playing King Arthur. My King Arthur special ability, because there is some asymmetry in this game, every character has a special thing, I can trade a card to anybody regardless of where they are on the board. So if somebody's like going up against the Black Knight and they're like, I'm not going to make it, I can sit there and say, let me slide you a number 3 card. Give me some throwaway that you're not so concerned about. And so I have the ability to kind of cover people's backs. But every character, depending on who you are, has the ability to do something like that.
One of the things I love about this game is there's a lot of us, and you're not clumped around. There's plenty of things to do, and it becomes madness when you got the siege engines, you got the pikes, and you got the Saxons, and you got the Grail, and
you kind of fighting off everybody everywhere.
Yeah.
There's plenty to do, that's for sure.
So I have to wonder, why hasn't Days of Wonder put the reprint on this? It's not like there's a license tying it up, and there's obviously a demand on the secondary market for this. It just seems a weird decision to not.
Yeah, and in the past, they have, like, Memoir just sort of started showing up again, that was getting hard to find, and then it's not like they announced it, just suddenly Memoir was back. So I'm curious as to why this one has not just come back.
Yeah, they're just, I guess, too busy counting their Ticket to Ride money.
That might be it. And to be honest with you, there's a lot of stuff here. So, I mean, that could be part of it, too, is they just don't... They have to find a price point where they can produce it, make money, and people would actually be willing to buy it. And this one may just be kind of in a tough spot because of the nature of everything that's on the board.
Yeah, I mean, you could pare a lot of this down, but I see where you're coming from.
That's not how games are made these days.
But how much do you pare down before it kind of loses its luster?
I mean, one would argue the luster's in the gameplay.
Yeah, but at the same time...
But there's only one way to find out. That's to just
sit down and
let's...
We're not gonna
time to strap on our funny accents.
Is it time to be silly English
Kniggets.
I'll get the coconuts.
Go away, we already
can
got
ride
one.
our horses.
It's very nice.
Oh my god, the Monty Python.
All right, then.
You stay here and play.
Somebody say 1, 2, 3, go.
1, 2, 3, go.
Cody, I think you hid your traitor self
too well,
entirely too long.
Oh yeah,
and too well.
No one ever suspected me. It's always the times I don't want to be a traitor.
Yeah, you were the traitor, but you didn't.
I just wanted to
trade
be loyal.
much.
No,
I didn't detect much.
It was the pressure with the siege engines was on enough, but not quite enough. I thought
that you could make the reach,
push it.
Yeah,
and you didn't sabotage us at all. Like you could have sabotaged the Black Knight.
I wasn't drawing cards for it.
But you went there.
Oh yeah, I went there. But early on, I wanted to earn trust. Wanted to do it. Also, I played the lowest cards I could, but no Black Knight cards were there.
Yeah, we did really well this time. We got Excalibur, we got the Grail,
and we got the armor.
Lancelot's armor too.
Even if you hadn't gone and helped the Grail, you could have just claimed to not have any Grail cards.
Oh yeah, but
or go,
I
or you go over to Excalibur and start throwing Grail cards on that just to.
I didn't have them until late, and I still burned
you know what you should have done. You should have accused somebody.
Yeah, because if you accuse somebody, that turns over a black sword.
Yeah.
And then you reveal yourself and you turn over 2 more black swords.
Well, no, you don't. I don't think you reveal if
there's no option to reveal yourself. You reveal if you're accused.
Yeah.
Except for 1 or 2
I think
cards.
even if you make a wrong accusation, you don't flip over. You just.
And if I was accused and revealed, then a white sword goes out.
Yeah.
I was kind of banking on hoping a quest would end poorly, and then I would flip 2 more white swords at the end because I was unidentified.
Yeah.
Didn't happen.
But it
was close.
And the game is easier with 6 than it is with 5 or 4. And with 3, it's damn near impossible. But
there's special rules for 3.
Yeah, we managed to make this work pretty well. And our table talk was not awful. This is
it was humorous.
Begs for
it wasn't.
Over
the top.
You cheat a little. You sit there. I need a strong man, not an incredibly strong man, but a strong man nonetheless.
Certainly not middling.
Yes, not middling, but not the strongest.
Send me a gentleman that can carry things, but not everything.
Yeah.
So
that would be ridiculous.
So we didn't do that too awfully badly, but all in all, I think it I holy cow! I mean, it actually worked. And usually I'm ending up in the middle and I'm fighting Saxons and Picts.
There were like
Black
no
Knight,
Saxons.
and I ended up
doing
Excalibur. So I'm all over the place. So
we never lost either of against the Saxons or the Picts. They just didn't come out in enough numbers.
Yeah, we cleared them out twice, but with no figures.
Yeah,
1 each or something.
Yeah,
it was
really low.
It meant
said
nothing.
if we'd had 1 more Saxon there, that would have added 2 siege engines.
Yes, and I was hoping for those cards to come out
and put out 2 black swords.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was getting close there at the end.
Yeah,
it was dicey.
Especially since we were out of lives, so you couldn't bury your bad news by saying, "Oh, I'll just burn off a life." It's like when you're down to 2 and 1, it's like, okay.
I mean, King Arthur died getting the Grail.
We did only lose 2 quests, right? Or 1 quest.
We lost the Black Knight.
We lost the Black Knight.
That was
quest,
it.
And from now on, we had the Mist of Avalon out. From now on, each lost quest adds 1 additional black sword.
Yeah, that was
to
it.
the round table.
We just lost the Black Knight,
and then there was just 2 black swords from an event.
You flipped over
from
2 black.
When you
flipped over
revealed
2
as a
swords.
traitor.
Yeah, you're right.
And that was it.
That was it.
I really needed another quest to
and I had a pile of 3, so I'm thinking, I'll start up with the dragon. But then I look down and suddenly I'm like, oh, holy crap, everybody's joined me for Excalibur. It's time to do that. So I was thinking I would end up getting it because just nobody else was going to be there. Steven, you came over, but then Ed came over and said, "Oh, I'll poach that." And I was like, "Okay, get it done. Just get it done. I don't care. That's fine."
Yeah, because then we got to get over here to the Grail.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah, but like I said, I'm like, okay, well, give up on this. I'll go over the dragon because it's getting towards the end of the game. I'm like, okay, well, so the sword isn't going to move so quickly that we're going to lose the quest. We're just not going to win it. So I'm like, it's time for me to go over to the dragon. And I look down, I'm like, oh, there's 3 of us? Okay, let's close the deal. So that's how we ended up picking 2 swords there.
And that was another thing. You finished the quest, and I was just kind of hoping more Excalibur cards would come up, because then it's more siege engines.
Yeah.
There's just nothing came up to become siege engines to push me over the edge
and that was
gun for it.
Chris, you pointed out and say, hey, if you can get the Grail, you can close out the game. Because I'm like, okay, I'm sitting here siege engines. I'm not trusted. Somebody here is a traitor, and I need to be taking off a siege engine each time, so they can't be putting one on each time and win the game just that way. So I needed to keep fighting that off. And then suddenly it's like, oh, I can kind of shoot the moon by going over. And with Arthur's ability to swap a card, I was able to get that Grail card and close the deal on it. So that was kind of an interesting ending. I've never seen it done like that before.
Yeah. 8 white swords and 4 black swords.
Yeah.
That was a solid victory for the forces of good.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I remember this game being much more difficult, but maybe we were playing with less than 6.
Probably with 5.
It's probably 5.
Yeah.
5 is like a good number of players. You start getting down to 4.
I think I should have been more overtly traitor much earlier, but
Probably.
Yeah.
because
So
once
remind
you're
me-
revealed, you can just mess with people.
Right.
Yeah.
So remind me, if you fill up with siege engines, you automatically lose.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is just a
automatically
loss.
So that's what happened the last time I played, because I don't recall the game even.
Well, John likes to put out siege engines at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, because they're like get out of jail free cards because you get 12 of them. So it's like, okay, well, you don't even think about them until you got 6.
And then before you know, you're eating the whole Pringles can.
Well, right. And
I
so,
think 4 maybe going out there, and then but
no, 6, Chris.
No,
I said 6.
Yeah, you put
But
out
then
at
you have to
least
start
6.
fighting them and stuff. So with the black cards, yeah, it probably helped.
You put
a
out
little
6, and then
bit,
you
but
just go gallivanting off somewhere else, and you let the other people do the fighting. So,
It's very
It's
French of you.
somebody else's problem.
yeah, it's not my problem. Somebody else will do that. So we have not played this together in a long, long time. I figured out that I played with my kids in like 2021, and I think we lost. I think Sean was a traitor and screwed all of us.
Was
But
actually a good trade.
I remember you telling me about that. It was Sean that was the traitor.
Yeah.
He said he drew. Ed, this was your first play.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think?
I thought it was a pretty solid game. I did think it was relatively easy. That it was. If I'm thinking of a Ghost Story came up a couple times in our discussion. The pressure was on, but it never felt like we didn't have a way out.
there's always
Right.
options.
Right,
And in
that-
ghost stories, you just feel like it's oppressive.
The closest we got to really failing was the Grail when it was down to like the last one. But I was able to go over there, sacrifice a life, throw down a Grail card to knock back a little bit. Right. So,
And then it rolled.
Yeah,
Right.
this was the closest that
And
we've
then
came to
it
ever
rolled.
losing the Grail. If
Yeah.
we lost that, the game would have been over.
yeah, like it would that. Yeah, by no means am I saying it wasn't like there wasn't pressure, but it wasn't. I didn't think we were at any point in time really in danger of losing the game.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. Like the pressure was on at every point, but we had a clear path to victory.
So the obvious comparison y'all have been doing was Ghost Stories, but I think the obvious comparison is Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, that's probably a bit closer. It's just Ghost Stories is
And so,
fresh in our
like,
mind.
Right.
The tension here wasn't as apparent as it is in Battlestar, because at 6 players in Battlestar you've got 2 Cylons.
Yeah.
And so the
Kinda.
the ability for kinda, because they could come in the second half of the game, but the ability for mischief on the traitor side is,
Much more expanded.
It's much more
And
expanded.
That's much more a part of the play in that game.
and so I feel like in this game, if there had been 2 traitors in a 6-player game, it probably would have really ratcheted that tension up.
Yeah, I agree.
As an overall experience, comparing it to Battlestar, I actually enjoy this a lot better, just because
I agree.
it moves a lot smoother. In Battlestar, you still have that action economy. You got one thing that you can do each turn. I do like the pitching the cards in the middle to like figure out the checks.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I think Battlestar does right.
I think I appreciate in Battlestar it does feel like the different actions are actually different actions and they're a little more interesting. Whereas in here, every action is play 1 card down.
Yeah, essentially.
It's the same everywhere you go, and that just isn't ever going to be terribly interesting.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't think I was ever excited about doing something on my turn. It's just I'm pursuing this strategy.
Well, but it at the same time it's not you're pursuing the strategy, it's we're pursuing this strategy, and you're just a part of it. And I think this game does a whole lot better job of that camaraderie aspect. And I think there's a much lighter theme. And of course, Battlestar, the whole point of Battlestar is that it's about traitorism. It's about turning on you. It's, it came out in a time in the country where that was kind of a big deal. This, I think, was clearly in development, or at least doing something else prior to that, because this is a much lighter game. The thematics is lighter. You make funny voices, and you joke about, I need a strong man, but perhaps not the strongest man, and that's the kind of stuff that never happens in BSG. I mean, BSG, you're accusing each other of being traitors, but that's about it. But yeah, you're right.
And if you've got the context of the show, like, it's also very dark.
Yeah.
For a game. And just everything is so dire in that game.
Yeah, and this game, in spite of having shadows in its name, is not
lighter,
really that shadowy. Yeah, it's much
the art's
lighter, much
all
more
really
adventure.
bright.
Yeah.
I mean, you're playing literal knights of legend, right?
Yeah.
In shining armor.
right.
But we are the Knights of the Round Table. We work together to.
Yeah, I mean,
finish
it's
this.
Except for Cody.
I was still a knight
He
of the
actually
round
worked
table.
pretty well. I mean, he was.
He was a bad
far as
traitor.
I
traitor
wish
goes.
I wasn't the traitor.
Yeah.
I bet you do.
I was really surprised I turned my card over and I wasn't the traitor. I'm like, I'm always a traitor in this game, so that was a lovely surprise.
You only accused me of being the traitor like 2 or 3 times.
Maybe 7.
There were
It was more than 2 or 3.
I mean, it was 2 or 3 really long times.
Yeah.
and to be fair, I mean, that was more for the entertainment value
Yes,
of
I
calling you a
understand.
traitor
Than anything you'd
clearly
actually
you
done.
weren't doing things that were traitorous. So at that point, it
I
kind of gave me permission.
was pretty suspicious of Steven there for a while.
Yeah, he did a couple
couple
things that I was
times.
concerned
And then he
about.
started playing the special cards. I was like, okay, well, he can't be a traitor now because he played this card and got the loyal effect. So
I mean, I think you can play that card either way as the traitor.
I'd
Yeah,
have
'cause
to
you don't
check
have to reveal your
you-
card.
I'd have
You
to check the
still-
rule book. I don't think so.
It said, or you can reveal yourself to make everyone discard
There were a couple special cards that were loyal, and they had loyal and traitor as different effects.
Mhm.
Like Fate, I think, if you played that.
I started to think that you might be the traitor.
I gave it a thought towards the end, too.
Especially
Me?
when you were saying, like, oh, I have these special... I can play a special card for free. Give them to me. It would be perfect for you to, be collecting them or not,
He was
not use them.
saying-
Oh, I don't
thought
have
about that,
because
too.
I had,
Yeah.
3 of them.
Yeah, that was just me wanting to get any sort of use out of my special ability. I think
Yeah,
I used it once.
It was later in the game that I sat there and thought, ooh, is he doing something that... And then you kind of evened out. And I'm like, no, okay, he's helping along.
I fed him a special card that I thought would be through King Arthur.
Yeah, he traded me that special card, and then I traded... That's the convocation card, and then I traded it to you, and you're like, well, do I call everybody back to Camelot? That would suck. And of course... We probably all went back when Excalibur went, and suddenly it made perfect sense because we were all there already.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I was like, I could call everybody back, but then they have to burn an action to go back to what they were doing.
Yeah, so you get cards, but it costs you.
I'm
Whereas
gonna
with
wait,
everybody already
and
there,
then you all showed up at Camelot anyway, and I was like, all right,
Time to play.
yeah,
let's go to Camelot.
I had the benefit of knowing you just wanted to use your special power.
I just wanted to use my power. Yeah,
and I was sorry for you.
I just picked this guy randomly and was like, oh, okay, cool.
all right. So
we only had one loser.
Yeah.
Do we want to go losers first this time?
let's do losers first this time. That'd be nice.
All right, so Cody, let's call it. Using the Board Game Geek 1 to 10 scale, how do you rate Shadows Over Camelot?
I'd say it's a well-rounded 7. I really enjoy the game and the trying to figure out what to do with your hand. It's like a hand management game for me.
There's a little bit of hand management aspect to it.
Was hoping I wouldn't be the traitor at the start, and I probably should have played differently than I did, but I went unsuspected pretty much the whole game.
I didn't.
Yeah, I
see anything.
thought there was
Which-
no traitor.
Kind of felt nice.
Yeah,
usually,
I was
I'm
leaning towards there was no traitor.
usually I'm the traitor, and everyone goes, "Well, that's you." I'm like, "All right,
it's those close set eyes, Cody. That's
I
what it is.
guess."
It
It's
never
also
crossed
the
my mind.
certified agent of chaos.
Well, yes, I was not very chaotic on this one, so I'll aspire to do better. And I also hope if we play this again, I'm not the traitor.
So, well, go ahead, Chris. What's your opinion on this whole thing?
This is always a great game for table talk. Anytime you're accusing someone of being a traitor, not officially accusing them or a Cylon or anything like that.
Yeah,
There's-
just the jabbering.
the jabbering, it's like, why would you do that? You need to come over here and the table talk and putting out a siege engine and just. So this one, it's always a great game to play. I've enjoyed playing it. I mean, like I said, this is probably the first time I've gotten to play this with this copy of it.
Mm-hmm.
I played several times with John's, and I've always fascinated by it. That's why I picked it up, because it's kind of like, I want to play this, and here, I never play it.
Yeah.
And I play it with John, but you didn't bring it, so it was good that we had it. And it's been one that I've been wanting to get out for a while. So I would give this, I believe I rated another game this too, but 7 Siege Engines.
This was great. I enjoyed it. We played Battlestar a few months ago, and, that game just, it's so hit or miss. And when it misses, it's a huge miss. And when it hits, it's a great hit, but there's hardly ever any in between. I recall the one time I did play this, it ended very early because the board got filled up with siege engines very quickly.
Yeah, John over here saying, "Oh, you should just everyone add siege engines.
Siege engines.
It's free
fine.
real estate.
Well,
Right?
instead you're pulling like bad news cards. Okay, everybody lose 1 health point. It's like, that's 6 health points. So, a few siege engines ain't so bad. It's when you start getting too many.
But
I feel like this is the traitor experience that I'm looking for as far as like a board game. There are card games like Coup and Secret Hitler and things of that nature, but when I want to have like a big experience game, I think this is the one that that'll be the one that we go to. As far as cooperative games go as well, cooperative games aren't something that we really gravitate towards.
Yeah, that's true.
is that true?
Well,
I
at
certainly
least
don't.
John doesn't. John
Not,
Ghost
not as
Stories.
not in theory, but in practice the last couple of months, we actually have played a bunch of co-op games. But this is another example of a co-op that doesn't really suffer from that quarterbacking issue either. Because you all have your special powers, you all have a hand of cards, and you really have no idea what's
Somebody
in
else
each
has
other's
going.
hand.
Yeah.
So it helps alleviate that.
If you quarterback, everybody thinks you're the traitor.
That too.
So that's back pressure as well.
So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I'm looking forward to. I've said this millions of times, but I'm looking forward to this one hitting rotation more often. Let's actually do it with Shadows Over Camelot, and with that, I'm going to give it. I'm going to give it as solid a 7 as I can give.
So that's a BGG 7.
That's a BGG 7,
Not a Reddit 7.
Man, don't get me started on Reddit.
So one of the things I point out is, I've got something like 100 games at home, and the one that my kids would pull out, and when I say kids, I mean it's when they were teenagers and early 20s. My 2 youngest are 21 now. But even recently, I mean, as recently as 2 years ago, they pulled this one down and said, okay, this is what we're playing. And my kids really enjoy this game. And when I used to do the game group with the high schoolers, this was one of the ones that they would pull out. So for those of you that have, from tweeners on up, this is kind of a neat game to have in your back pocket. And it's not, in spite of there being an awful lot of stuff on the board, it's not terribly complicated to play. It's the kind of game where you can really discuss who should do what without one person running the show, because everybody's got a little bit of an insight into what they're doing, and everybody's kind of going off in their own little direction. So just because you're working over here against the Saxons doesn't mean somebody else can't go after Excalibur, and you kind of all choose your own path and plot your own adventure. So I've just found that from that Family Games, from that Days of Wonder perspective, the original producer of this, who of course are now part of the Big Machine, this fits that bill really well. This is a game that you can sit down with friends and family and knock it around. And frankly, if you wanted to, and if you're a bunch of, adult couples, you can be drinking a beer or having a glass of wine and playing this as well. And there's plenty of opportunities for everybody to kind of, scream and yell and have a good time with it and not take anything too seriously. But at the same time, it's still a solid challenge. So I think it's just a really well developed game. You can design a game well, but if you don't put it through its paces, if you don't really refine it, it's not going to do what it's supposed to do. And this game is refined. This game has had the practice, has had the time put into it. And I think Days of Wonder was better than that. I think Bruno and Serge also tend to be more patient with pulling things together. And frankly, back then you could spend more time because you weren't on that Kickstarter panic.
And this was in an era where Days of Wonder would put out 1, maybe 2 games a year.
Yeah.
And they would have their designs, and they would play test and develop the
Yeah.
stew out of them before they even put them out.
Yeah, and when they would come out, it was an event. The new Days of Wonder game is being announced on Monday. I mean, it was that kind of thing, and this was one of those. And I just think it's a great game. This is a very, very strong 7, and as I swear I say this at every episode, Chris, is you'll pull down a game, I'll be like, yeah, that'll do, and then I play and I go, oh yeah, boy, this is really a good game. We should play this more often. So, yeah, if this came out next week when we do our May Game-a-thon, I'd play it again. And there's not a whole lot of games that I'm sitting there saying, let's play this 2 weeks in a row, let's do this over again. But this one I'd definitely do another time. And
that warms my heart when I bring out a game and it gets okay.
Yeah, we all kind of look at you like,
and then it's like, yes, it was a winner.
Yeah,
Speaking of winner,
Winner Circle?
Winner Circle.
No.
No.
We might be able to sneak in a game.
We're gonna bleep that out.
No.
Let's censor that.
Another game. Camelot.
So this is a sweet 7, and I'll pass it on to Ed, who I accused of being a traitor, maybe 8-10 times, but never really thought for a second he was, because Ed was heads down on it, weren't you, Ed? I mean, making it work.
Yep, just being my nightly self. I thought it was a very solid game. You touched on it a little bit there, John, that even though it is cooperative, everybody sort of felt like their own little questing night, doing their thing. Yeah, I really wanted to go for the Grail, but I ended up fighting the Saxons for a while and then finished up the Excalibur quest. But it really felt like I had my own agency and that there wasn't really an optimal move for me to make every single turn, right? It was more strategizing. Any of the quarterbacking was about a general strategy about how we should approach the game, not what specific move needs to be made this turn so that we can move the doom clock back or whatever it was. So, and that feeds a little bit into what I was talking about earlier, where the pressure was always on, but it never felt like I had to constantly be in one place at a specific time, otherwise we were just going to lose. Because I didn't have to optimize my moves every single turn.
The game was not dictating your actions. You could do what you wanted to do where you wanted to do it. And I think that's real strength in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just a nicely put together package. A Steely 7. A Steely 7 is what I...
Steely 7?
Steely 7.
Steely is what you're going with, huh?
Yes, Steely. No, not Steely Dan. Steely 7.
Sam?
All right, well...
Don't say this game is fine.
I enjoyed this game. It's a fun game. This is one of those games that I enjoy kind of despite how it plays. The table talk is what makes it fun, and just because it lacks enough depth to really make me interested in it. Or maybe it's too slow. I don't know. Because...
There aren't a lot of levers for Sam to pull.
There aren't a lot of levers. It feels like a very slow game to me, just because you do one thing on your turn and then it moves around the table. And that one thing might just be you move your guy on the board, which is just not a lot, right? And it works for balance and for the speed of the game and for how everybody gets to... It works fine that way. It's just not terribly engaging without the table talk, right? With the table talk, it's fine, and there's interest there. But I could see this, if people are having an off night, they're not quite getting into it, this one could be a dud very quickly.
It's not an intense game. It's a more social game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I can enjoy those.
Right. It's not like 2030 where you're really kind of, got your fingers wrapped around the instruments trying to make it run.
I prefer games that are a little more intense.
Mm-hmm.
All of that being said, it is a very well-designed game. It does what it wants to do, and it's very consistent. And it's always fun to be a knight in shining armor and, quest against the forces of evil. Although I don't think I've ever gotten to be the traitor, so that it might be more fun to be the traitor. I'm going to give this one a stalwart 7.
Stalwart 7. Okay,
I just wanted to wrap in the knight theme, yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I'll point out, and I always notice this, the whole board is top down. there's some really cool art flourishes
Yeah.
with the top down. Like there's the little wrecked boat that's over here in the corner, and you can see the gate for the castle, but you're only seeing it edge on because it's tipped up.
Yeah,
But
and
you
if
can
you
see the little platform that it lands on the far side.
and if you look at fighting the Black Knight, you're jousting him.
yes, and
it's
there he
set
is, and he's
up
got he's got his lance out,
lance
and
out.
and even a broken lance here on the board. I mean, there's just these little things that you can look at that are kind of
really
cool.
like when you complete quests or lose quests, you put out the swords around the round table, and then you have a little
it's a
slot.
very nice
like
little design choice. Yeah,
Like the knights have all placed their swords down.
Yeah,
on
like
the table.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
a lot of nice little design touches.
Yeah.
So it's official. I miss Days of Wonder because they had a lot of interesting games like this.
They made a lot of good games.
Yeah.
And Small World.
and Small
and,
World
well,
too. Yeah.
They
Mystery
can't
of the
all be
Abbey
a lot of
was
great
another one
games
that had this
and
sort of
Small
spirit
World.
to it, and then they had some smaller box games that were kind of interesting too. So
All right,
All right.
I think we're done.
like any number of games.
Like Through the Desert, they live in tents, right?
Intense. Good thought, Chris. Is that
Diamant. How about Diamant?
okay? So wait a minute. Is that a 2-minute minor?
Chris, go put yourself in the penalty box.
Wait, how often am I in the penalty box? Like half all of I make are puns on this thing.
Yeah, but yours aren't that bad.
And thank you for everybody for voting to nominate us for the Golden Geek Award. If anyone
That
actually
was very
did that.
wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I don't know if the nominations have come through yet, but I
Nice.
highly doubt that we've been nominated. But it would be hilarious if we were. So anyway,
Oh.
I was gonna say, huh?